The Ravens spent big on their pass rush this offseason. But honestly, I still don't think Baltimore is done yet. Because there's one problem hiding inside this defense that almost nobody's talking about right now: experience. And if the Ravens ignore that issue, it could turn into a massive problem once the season really starts heating up. And here's the crazy part: the perfect solution might already be right in front of them. A player who already knows the system, already proved he fits in Baltimore, and is still producing at a high level. And the more you look at what Jadeveon Clowney can still bring to this defense, the more it feels like the Ravens are running out of reasons not to bring him back. When you first look at the Ravens offseason, it feels like they already fixed the pass rush completely. They brought in Trey Hendrickson, added Calais Campbell, and even drafted Zion Young. On paper, it sounds like Baltimore built a scary defensive front. But the more I look at this group, the more I feel like the Ravens are still relying way too much on potential instead of proven production. Because there's a huge difference between talent and reliability in the NFL. Zion Young hasn't played a single NFL snap yet. Mike Green is trying to bounce back after a rough season. Tavius Robinson still hasn't consistently shown he can be a serious edge threat. And Adisa Isaac barely has any real game experience so far. So in my opinion, putting all your trust in that group during a Super Bowl run feels like an unnecessary gamble. That's exactly why Jadeveon Clowney makes so much sense here. And it's not just about sacks. His impact goes way beyond that. You add a veteran like Clowney into a young rotation, and suddenly the pressure comes off everybody else. He already knows Baltimore, understands the physical style of the AFC North, and knows exactly what the Ravens expect defensively. And there's another important detail here. Clowney himself has already made it clear he enjoyed his time in Baltimore and would be open to coming back. That matters a lot. When a veteran already knows the culture and actually wants to be there, the fit happens much faster. And honestly, when you really look at what he still brings on the field, it's hard not to feel like the Ravens may still need this move more than people realize. One thing I think a lot of people are getting wrong in this conversation is acting like Jadeveon Clowney is washed. Because when you actually look at his recent production, the reality looks completely different. Last season in Dallas, he led the team with 8.5 sacks despite only playing 13 games. That's a huge sign that he can still impact games at a high level. But honestly, the most impressive part of Clowney's game isn't even the sack numbers. It's how he still wins physical matchups without constantly needing help from the defensive scheme. He can beat blockers one-on-one, create pressure naturally, force offenses into mistakes, and he's still extremely solid against the run. That's exactly the kind of player Baltimore values on defense. And if we're being real, this was one of the Ravens' biggest problems last season. Too many times, the pass rush struggled to consistently win individual matchups. Baltimore had to rely heavily on blitzing just to create pressure, and that left the defense vulnerable in certain situations. So when you add someone like Clowney into that rotation, you immediately increase the number of players who can create pressure without needing extra help. And here's the thing that makes this even more interesting. Baltimore wouldn't need Clowney to carry the defense. That responsibility would already be shared with Hendrickson, Campbell, and the rest of the front. That's actually the perfect situation for him. In a balanced rotation, Clowney can stay fresh, play in the right situations, and continue producing efficiently. And the more you think about it, the more this feels like one of those low-risk signings that quietly ends up making a huge difference later in the season. Not every player can handle the kind of football Baltimore plays defensively. The AFC North is a war every single week. It's physical, violent football, hard-running games, quarterbacks taking hits constantly, and defenses trying to wear you down for 4 quarters. And honestly, one of the biggest reasons bringing Clowney back makes so much sense is because he already proved he can thrive in that environment. When Clowney played in Baltimore before, the fit looked natural immediately. He brought toughness, physicality, and the exact mentality the Ravens always look for on defense. He never looked like a player trying to figure things out or adjust to the system. He looked like someone built for Ravens football. And that matters a lot when a team is trying to compete for a Super Bowl right now. There's also a recent comment from Clowney that caught people's attention. He made it clear that he enjoyed his time in Baltimore and would absolutely be open to returning. That changes the conversation in a big way. Normally, when a veteran already knows the building, likes the coaching staff, and understands the culture, the transition becomes much easier. You're not wasting time trying to figure out whether the player will buy into the system. And honestly, I think that matters even more for a team with championship expectations. The Ravens are not rebuilding. They need players who can help immediately from week 1. Clowney already knows the locker room, already understands the defense, and already proved he can succeed in this exact situation. And the fewer questions you have about a player's fit, the more valuable that signing becomes for a team trying to win now. One thing that always happens in the NFL is that teams look completely different in December than they did in September. Injuries happen, players wear down physically, and depth suddenly becomes one of the biggest factors in winning important games. And in my opinion, that's exactly why the Ravens shouldn't stop adding to this pass rush right now. Because once you get late into the season, having only 2 big-name pass rushers isn't enough anymore. The teams that make deep playoff runs usually have waves of defenders coming at quarterbacks all game long. You need your edge rushers healthy, explosive, and fresh for January football. And that's exactly what the smartest teams in the league have done over the last few years. They've built deep defensive lines to survive the grind of the season. That's where Clowney becomes extremely valuable. He'd basically act as insurance in case injuries hit the defensive front. And honestly, it would be a huge luxury for Baltimore to rotate Hendrickson, Campbell, Clowney, and the younger guys without forcing anyone to carry too much too early. That not only helps the defense immediately, but also gives younger players time to develop properly. Another major factor here is the financial side. Clowney signed a relatively affordable deal in Dallas last season, so there's a very realistic chance Baltimore could bring him back on another short-term contract without hurting the cap too much. And when you combine experience, production, scheme fit, leadership, and reasonable cost, this starts looking exactly like the kind of smart move Super Bowl contenders quietly make before a championship run. If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow. The Ravens already made major moves this offseason. There's no question about that. They attacked the pass rush aggressively and brought in serious talent to improve the defense. But when you look at the teams that consistently compete for Super Bowls, there's one pattern that always stands out. Elite teams never stop improving one of the most important positions in football, getting after the quarterback. And honestly, I think Baltimore understands that better than most teams. Because in today's NFL, you can have a talented defense across the board, but if you can't pressure elite quarterbacks in big moments, everything becomes harder. Especially in the playoffs when you're facing explosive offenses and franchise quarterbacks almost every week. That's why edge depth becomes so important. On top of that, Clowney fits almost everything the Ravens want defensively. He's physical, experienced, plays with intensity, and still produces at a solid level. This wouldn't feel like a desperate move or some risky gamble. Quite the opposite. It would be adding a proven veteran who already knows the system and can contribute immediately without demanding a massive contract. And the more I think about this entire situation, the more this reunion just makes sense for both sides. Baltimore would get more depth, veteran leadership, and additional pass rush help for a season where the goal is clearly winning a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Clowney would return to an environment where he already proved he can succeed. And sometimes it's exactly these simple moves that separate really good teams from teams that are truly ready to raise the Lombardi Trophy. After looking at everything, honestly, it's really hard for me to say the Ravens don't need Jadeveon Clowney. Baltimore definitely improved the pass rush this offseason, but there's still a lack of proven experience in that rotation. And for a team trying to win a Super Bowl right now, that can become a huge factor once the season gets tough. On top of that, Clowney already knows the system, already proved he fits this defense, and he's still producing at a solid level. So from my perspective, this reunion just makes too much sense for both sides. Now I want to hear from you. Should the Ravens bring Jadeveon Clowney back, or is this defense already good enough without him? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I really want to know what you think about this situation. And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out and I'll see you in the next video.